Hey guys, it's Ken from Cactus Jam Games, where we talk about and play board games. Pull up a chair, join me at the table, and let's see what we're going to talk about today. Okay, so the game we're going to be talking about today is Suburbia. This is a 2012 game, originally designed by Ted Alspach. The publisher of the game is Bezier Games. Board Game Geek rating of 172. The game is wonderful. It's just a very approachable game. It's a great game to play with very experienced players. It's also a great game to introduce new people to the hobby. Another aspect that's really nice about it, it's great for a wide range of ages. The box, I think, indicates down to age 8 and up. That was certainly our experience in our household, where our kids jumped into this game at a very early age. It's very approachable, very easy to understand what the mechanisms are. The depth of the game comes from the choices of the tiles and how they will interact with each other. So this is in fact a tile placement game. There's going to be a market where you're going to purchase real estate tiles, bring them back to your play area, bring them into your borough or into your growing suburb. And based upon the tile itself, it will have characteristics that will increase your income or increase your reputation. And then on top of it, you're going to be seeing interactions with that tile with other tiles that are found in your suburb. And then on top of it, there's going to be interactions that occur with the other players on the board with how the tile is placed and what sort of tiles they may have in their borough as well. So like I said, this is a very nice game to introduce new players to the hobby, but it's also great for people who are quite experienced and looking for that challenge and excitement there, while at the same time being very approachable. The basic game overview: in this game, the players are going to be building a suburb. Each player has their own play space where they will have tiles. Those tiles will consist of commercial districts, industrial districts, civic, and then finally a residential. So 4 different types of tiles can be put into play. In addition, water tiles can be placed as well, and we'll talk about what that means in just a little bit. Okay, so for each turn, the players will take 4 actions. And they're going to be listed right up here for us. So the first action they're going to do is purchase or take a tile from the real estate market. And we're going to talk about the various ways that the players can do that. There's actually 3 different ways that they can take a tile from the market. And we'll go through each in just in a few minutes. The second thing that's going to happen is they're going to take that tile that they just purchased or obtained from the market. They're going to bring it back to their play area, to their suburb, and they're going to place the tile in a location where they want to. There are some limitations. They must place the tile so one long edge is touching another long edge, so you can't have points touching from 2 different tiles. Instead, long edges must match up. They're going to place that tile into their suburb. They're going to have that tile interact with the tiles that are found within the suburb already. After that, then they're going to have the tiles within the suburb interact with the new one. There may be interactions that go both ways. And then lastly, after they complete all of those interactions to determine what sort of interactions can occur, then other players may have tiles that can play off of the tile that was just played in this player's suburb. And then at that point, third action is going to happen, and that's going to be the end turn, where the player will collect income and get reputation. So their income that they're going to collect or pay will depend upon where the income track marker is located. So whatever that number is, if it's a positive number, they'll be collecting money from the bank. If it's a negative number, that's what they have to pay. If they don't have enough money to pay for it, points, or I should say population, are deducted, and one population is deducted for each dollar that they're short. After they collect income, then they'll get their reputation score. It works the same way. They're going to be adding reputation if it's positive to their population score. And if it's a negative value, they'll be subtracting population. After they collect their income and adjust their population, then they're going to clean up the real estate market. The hole that's in the real estate market, that one tile that's missing, all the tiles to the left of it will be moved to the right. And then you're going to take a new tile from the lowest letter or first letter in alphabetical order, A, B, or C stack tile. Take a tile from that spot and put it into the leftmost position. That player's turn is over. We'll move to the next player and we'll repeat the process, the same 4 steps. Let's next talk about the game components and set the board up for a playthrough. Each player takes the following components: a player aid, which has the steps the players take each turn. There's a burrow board, which is where the players are going to be adding tiles. It also contains the income and reputation tracks. The burrow board is reversible, where the players can build towards them when it's in this orientation, or when it's in this orientation, away from them. On the burrow board are both the income and reputation tracks. The cubes represent reputation and the cylinder income. The population marker is how the players keep track of their score or population, and they're going to be doing that on the scoreboard or population track. At the beginning of the game, they'll be placing it in the second position. Next, we're going to talk about the investment markers. These 2x markers or investment markers are a way that players can double the effects of any one tile that they bring home to their burrow. Each player will have 3 of these. The burrow board contains tracks for both income and reputation. Let's see how we calculate or use the burrow board to keep track of that. The information about reputation and income is found on the tiles themselves. For example, on the heavy factory, you see that the income is increased by 1. At the same time, the community park has a cost of 1. So 1 income minus 1 cost means that the starting income is 0, and you place the cylinder on the income track on the 0 position. In a similar fashion, you can calculate the reputation, and this can be done at any point of the game. You can always check this out. So let's take a look at reputation. Your community park gives you +1 reputation for each yellow, green, and blue tile that you're adjacent to. You're adjacent to a yellow tile above and a green below, so your reputation is 2. But wait, take a look at your factory. Your factory says -1 reputation for each gray and green tile you're next to. Well, you're next to a gray tile, so your reputation goes back to 1. So let's do the same thing with your population now. So which tiles give you population? Well, your suburbs do. And you see this suburb gives you +2 population. When we go to the scoreboard, we're going to take our population marker and move it to the second position. You notice there's a little arrow there telling us that this is the start position. Okay, so on a player's turn, the player must take or purchase a tile from this space here. So one of the tiles from the real estate market must be taken. Let's go through the real estate market right now, what we're actually seeing here. There are a total of 7 tiles in the real estate market. There are 7 spots here.
each tile has a cost associated with it, written right on the tile itself. So for example, this first one here, it's got a $5 cost to it. In addition to the cost on the tile, there's also a real estate charge as well, and that varies based on the position that the tile is found in the market. The values for the real estate position are shown here along the purple line, and they range from 0 to $2, $4, $6, $8, and then finally up to $10. That amount is added to the value of the tile. So in that regard, the tile value is a combination of what's written on the tile itself plus the real estate value. So in this case, this first tile would cost $5. This next one would cost $15 with the $0 real estate fee. This next tile, one more example, costs $4, but there's a $2 real estate fee, so it would actually cost $6 when it's in this position. Players will choose one of the tiles here, pay the price, combination of the value that's found on the tile and the real estate cost. Let's say they go ahead with this one here, and they're going to pay $5 to the bank from their supply. They're going to bring this tile back to their home. So that's one option they can do on their turn. They've got two more options, and let's go through those right now as well. I'm going to place this tile back here. The second thing the player can do, or alternatively from purchasing one of these tiles here, they can choose one of these basic tiles. And there's three different types. There's suburbs, community park, and then heavy factory. The value of the tile is written right on the tile itself. In this case, it costs $3. But whenever a player takes one of these basic tiles, they must also discard one of the tiles shown here. There is a cost to doing that, though. The cost is the real estate value. Okay, so the values range anywhere from 0 up to $10. Obviously, if you're going to be taking this approach, say purchasing a basic tile like the suburbs here, you're going to pay $3 for it and you want to minimize the cost, well, choose this tile here. By choosing this tile here and you're going to discard it, so it's out of play, will not be included in your burrow or play area, we've now created a gap here. Okay, whenever there's a gap in this market, we'll have to fill it at the end. So if we purchase that tile, that creates a gap. If we purchase a basic tile and discard one of these tiles, we'll also create a gap. And again, when we buy a basic tile, we're going to be paying the cost of the tile itself, the basic tile cost, plus the real estate position that we take it from. Okay, so that's a second way that we can take a tile on our turn. I'm going to place this tile back here just for, again, purposes of teaching. The third thing that we can do, instead of purchasing one of these tiles face up, or one of these tiles here, we can take one of these tiles and flip it over. And when we flip it over, we convert it into a water tile. And you can see the cost listed there at 0. And if we take it from this position here, the only thing we have to pay for is the real estate cost. So if we take it from this position here, the value for this tile would be $0. Why would you do this? Well, money is really tight in this game. There will be turns where you have no money. And as a result, you'll need ways to generate income for yourself or be able to do something that minimizes the cost. When you purchase a water tile, like the example here, when you bring it back to your suburb or burrow, you're going to actually get income by placing this tile. So at this point, after we purchase the tile, we'll bring it back to our burrows or suburb. We'll place that tile, do the interactions, and then at the end of the turn, we'll have to do the cleanup of the real estate market. The way that works is we've got a gap here. we'll slide all of the tiles down. Take the topmost tile from the deck that's available, and then we'll place that tile in the rightmost position. So in this regard, we've taken a turn, obtained a tile, in this case, taken a water tile, or we could purchase one of these tiles or take a basic one, and then afterwards we've cleaned up the real estate market.
Okay, so we've already showed you the player-specific setup components where each player will take a board, a burrow board, a player aid, the investment markers, and their starting tiles. Next, we need to set up the common area that's shared for all of the players. First, let's organize the tiles for the game. We're going to flip over all the tiles so they're all face down. We're going to look at the backs and organize them based on the letters. They come in A, B, or C. Separate the 3 stacks. Now it's time to randomly select the tiles for the game, and you'll be randomly selecting the A tiles separate from the B tiles and separate from the C. How many do you need? Well, that is written down on the tile board shown here. So how many of the A tiles do we take? Well, we're going to take a look at the tile board, and for a 4-player game, we're going to choose 21 tiles. We're going to choose those randomly. So we're just going to work our way through it, go through this stack, keep drawing. Takes just a moment or two here. And just about there. Okay, I think we're good. I think we got all the tiles that we need. So we're going to go ahead and get those tiles set up on the tile board. And we're placing those tiles on the area designated for the A stack. So let's go ahead and get these tiles out of the way and repeat the process with the B tiles. We're going to go ahead and just randomize them around a little bit. And we're going to draw out the tiles for the B. And again, it's a random selection. It provides a little bit of variety and increases replayability by having a random selection of tiles each and every game. Now, the game that I'm showing you is essentially the base game. However, I do have one of the expansions for this game, and so I did include some of those tiles because I just think they're pretty cool. So let's go ahead and get those tiles out of the way and repeat the process. Now, for C tiles, the setup is a little bit different, a little bit more complicated, but it's still pretty straightforward. The first thing we're going to do is randomly select 4 tiles and set them aside. We'll put them right here. For a 4-player game, we're going to draw 12 more tiles and then add to them the 1 more round tile marker. When this tile is revealed, the players will complete the round that they're playing, and then starting with the start player, each player gets 1 final turn. After all the players have completed their final turn, then final scoring will occur, and you'll determine who wins the game. These instructions are actually found on the tile itself, including the point that this tile is not to be included in the real estate market, and instead you're going to draw another tile and put it in its place. Okay, so let's draw the rest of the tiles. So we're going to mix this tile in with the stack that we've drawn so far, and let's get the rest of the tiles brought in, and we're supposed to draw 12 of them for a 4-player game. Okay, we're going to shuffle these guys up a little bit. Don't worry about it. We're not going to get too crazy with the shuffle here, just enough. And that should be good enough for what we're talking about. Okay, we're going to set these guys right over here. And now we're going to draw 9 more tiles, again for a 4-player game. And the amounts and the number of tiles that we draw for each of the stacks is shown right on that board. So there's the 4 stack on the bottom, the 12 in the middle, and the 9 on top. So in this way, we have gone ahead and got the tiles ready for play for a 4-player game. So let's take these tiles and set them aside. We've got that all set up for a 4-player game. Next, we're going to talk about end game goals. These tiles right here with the purple backings, these are the end game goals. There's really two varieties of them, but let's talk about the anatomy of the tiles themselves first. At the bottom, we have some sort of flavor text indicating what the title is for this end game goal. Then we have the actual goal, which in this case is having the most water tiles played in the game. And then finally, we see on the top of the tile the reward, in this case, plus 20 population or score that will be awarded to the player at the end of the game if they're able to achieve their personalized goal. And there's a big variety of these end game goals. You might try for the fewest commercial buildings in this example, and you're going to get 10 population at the end of the game. You might try this one here where you're going to get 15 population if you have the most contiguous civic center region in all of the players here. So there's a lot of different variety here. Let's go ahead and just randomize these and draw 2 for one of our players here. And let's see what we get. We've got most airports and most money. That's different than income. It's actually the amount of cash that you have on hand. They'll indicate when it's in income, when that's appropriate. So let's go ahead and choose this one right here and hopefully have the most money at the end of the game. So we're going to take that tile that we selected and place it face down in our area. That's what we're going to be going for. The other tile that we got rid of, we're going to set aside face down so we don't give experienced players additional information. We're going to choose the common goals now based upon the number of players, in this case 4 players. These goals include most contiguous civic tiles, most industrial tiles, least amount of money, and then finally, fewest commercial tiles. These goals stay face up for the entire game. Each player can compete for them. The player who actually achieves the goal is the one who receives the points at the end of the game. Next, let's talk about the basic tiles. There's 3 different varieties. The suburbs cost $3 each. There's going to be 4 of these tiles set aside on the main playing board. Players can purchase these tiles instead of purchasing one of the tiles from this real estate market. Likewise, they can also purchase a heavy factory. They also cost $3. But remember, whenever you purchase one of these tiles here, you'll have to pay the cost of the tile and then discard one of the tiles from the real estate market, paying only the real estate cost. And then finally, we've got the community center. It's one of the civic tiles, or community park. This one costs $4. And like the other 2 types, there's going to be 4 of these in the main playing board area. Once these tiles are all purchased, that's it. There aren't any more to buy. So first come, first serve. So let's load up those basic tiles onto the main board here. You can see at the top of the triangle, there's a spot for each of the 3 different types. We've got the suburbs, got the industrial tiles, and then finally the civic tiles. Okay, let's go ahead and get the rest of the board set up. On our main board, we've got our basic tiles, we've got our goals, and now we're going to go ahead and fill the real estate market. And we're going to be drawing from the A stack, starting from the lowest real estate value to the highest, so 0 to 10. And we're just going to keep drawing from A until we have all of the spots filled out. And again, these are randomly determined. That's the last of the real estate market being completed. And again, we're drawing from the A stack. When the A stack is gone, then we'll start with the B stack. We're going to just flip over our basic tiles and get those guys ready to go. Remember, there's 4 of each type. Okay, so we've got our board set up for a 4-player game. Okay, so this is our final setup right here. The only thing that's different is we've added some poker chips for the cash that we're going to use for the game, but everything else is there. The real estate market, the common goals, basic tiles, and then the extra tiles that will be drawn as the game progresses. Okay, so now that we got everything all set up, let's go ahead and do that 4-player playthrough. We probably won't do an entire game, but we'll do a few rounds just so you get a feel for how things go. It's really a quite straightforward game, but seeing it played and seeing those sort of tile interactions that I was mentioning earlier is very helpful to understand how the game progresses and how things go.
Okay, we've set up for a 4-player game. We've randomly selected who gets the first player token. That's this token right here. You can randomly select it. You can just give it to somebody. We oftentimes give it to the youngest player on the board. But however you want to do it, you can go ahead and do it that way. What does that do for you? Well, obviously it tells you who the first player is, but it's most important for that last round. So when that final round or one more round tile is drawn near the end of the game, what that means is everybody will complete their turn up to that player, the one that's holding the first player token. And at that point, the first player token indicates who will play first in that final round. And you're going to play one more time so that everybody has the same number of actions or the same number of turns in the game.
Let's start with the first player. The goal of that player, the personal goal, is to have the most cash on hand. Let's start working towards that goal right now. And it's always good to generate income in the game, especially early on. It can really translate to a lot of money by the end of the game. I'm going to start with purchasing this fancy restaurant. Now it costs $9. And the real estate position is 0, so the total cost will be 9. So let's go ahead and pay that right now. And we're going to pay $9 to the bank and take this tile. Okay, so this is the first step, taking a tile. Let's bring it back to our burrow and see how we're going to place it. Okay, so we're back at our burrow now. Where can we place this tile? Well, there's a number of different places. I'm going to prick it right here. First thing that's going to happen is we're going to look at the tile itself. It says add 3 income. So we're at 0, we're going to go up to 3. That's easy enough. So we're looking at how this tile, the effect of the tile itself first. We do that first. And now we're going to look at the conditional part of this tile. So found at the bottom. This one's a little bit different. It says that we're going to lose $1 for each and every restaurant that's built after this one. And note, it's not just restaurants built in this borough, it's any of the boroughs in the game, so any of the other players. Yep, this player did take this tile knowing that that was the effect here, but they're going to get the benefit of the boost of income right now. Let's see how let's see how the other tiles interact with this one. Well, there's no interaction here. I'm looking at the bottom. And there's no interaction here, but we're saving the best for last, and that's our community park. And our community park says that +1 reputation for each adjacent green, blue, or yellow. Well, we've already taken care of the green and yellow. Now we're going to get a +1 reputation for the blue tile that we just placed. So let's go ahead and raise our reputation up by 1. Okay, no other players have any tiles except for the original ones, so there's nothing for us to look at for how they may be able to interact with this newly placed tile. So let's go ahead and collect our income and reputation. Income is 3, so we'll go to the bank and grab $3. And we've got our $3 right here. I'm going to add them to our collection. We're up to $9. That's not too bad. And then the reputation is 2. So let's go over to the reputation board. And this was the black player.
reputation score is 2 right now. We're going to add another 2, and we're at 4.
And now we're going to finish up by cleaning up the real estate market. We've got a hole right here. Let's go ahead and slide all the tiles down by 1. And we're going to draw a new tile. Oh, and that's an airport. We like airports. Okay, this player's turn is done. Let's move on to the next one. Here's our second player. It's the yellow player. The unique aspect of yellow player is that they drew, for their own personal goal, to try to get the highest income level by the end of the game. Now, it's not cash on hand, this is just highest income. And if they're able to do that, they'll get 15 bonus points at the end of the game. Well, looking at the real estate market, they may end up doing exactly what the black player did as a boost for their income by getting a fancy restaurant. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. Okay, there are actually a couple of different options here for this player. Yeah, the fancy restaurant is right here, and that is a huge boost to income. It gives a +3. Another option is, because they see that there's a restaurant already in play, there's a fancy restaurant that can come into play, and a fast food restaurant as well. If they were to take this farm, what this farm says costs $9, just like the fancy restaurant. You're going to lose 1 reputation, though. That's a downside. That's what that -1 in the box represents. But at the bottom, it says get $1 for every restaurant on the board. That's not just in your borough, that's every borough on the board. With that in mind, here's the trade-off, and this is what this player is thinking. If they choose the fancy restaurant, that's fine. They're gonna hurt the other player for the conditional benefit that we saw in the fancy restaurant. That is -1 income for every restaurant that's played after this one. They also note that there is a fast food restaurant that's coming up in a little bit as well. In addition, the yellow player is looking at the shared goals here, and there's 2 of them that actually appeal, or that this player is looking at as well. The first one is this shared goal, which says have the fewest blue tiles in the borough. The first player's already picked a blue tile. The other players don't have any. If this player opts to choose a blue tile, that's going to put them in a bad place to keeping their score down, or excuse me, keep the blue tile down and make it harder for them to compete for this one. And then on top of it, there's this shared goal which states that the player with the most yellow tiles will actually score 15 points. So with that in mind, they're going to go with this tile here. Okay, we're at the farm. It's going to cost $9, just like we saw before, or just like on the previous tile. So this player will pay the $9 to the bank. And now they're going to bring that tile back to their home. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. Where to place this tile? That's the next question. I think we're going to put it right here. And we'll actually be able to mitigate this tile a little bit. Okay, so the first thing that's going to happen is we're going to lose 1 popularity by placing this tile into our borough. And now we're going to look to see how this tile interacts with other tiles. This tile states that you get $1 increase in income for every restaurant on the board. Well, they don't have a restaurant, but the first player does. So let's increase our income by 1. And I mentioned before, we lost a popularity here. We're down to 0. It's unfortunate, but by placing the farm next to the community park, we get a +1 reputation for each yellow tile that we're next to. So we've recovered a little bit. Okay, so with that in mind, we can go ahead, we're going to look now to see if any other players can interact with this tile, and the answer is no. No interactions can happen right now. So let's go ahead and collect our income, which in the case of yellow player is 1. So they're back up to $7. And then we're going to go over to the scoreboard. Yellow has a base score of 2. That's a starting score. Their reputation track is at 1, so they're going to raise their marker of 1 spot. Okay, so they're trailing black right now, but it's pretty early in the game. Let's wrap up yellow's turn by fixing the real estate market. Slide all the tiles down. Lots of blue tiles in play. And we have a suburb or a residential tile that came out. Okay, let's go on to our next player. Here's our third player. What did they choose for their personal goal? Well, they've got an interesting one here. This one is the aquatic engineer. It says they have to have the most water tiles in play. They're probably not going to do that in the first round, but they're definitely going to be thinking about it for future plays. Okay, let's take a look at the real estate market and see what we can do. Okay, so they're going to jump into and grab a fast food restaurant. The price is only 7. And they're going to choose this one over the fancy restaurant because they like the idea of not only getting a boost in income right away, but they're also going to get a boost in their population as well. So let's go ahead and take this one. Okay, we've got this tile right here. We're going to definitely park this one down here in the corner. And lots of stuff will happen as a result of placing this tile here. First thing we're going to see is our income goes up by 1. And then we're going to look at this, and it says +3 for each adjacent green residential tile. Let's go over to the scoreboard. And what we're going to see here for the red player is they just get a boost of 3. Their score right now is 2. They're going to jump up to 5. Again, we're not increasing the reputation for this. We're increasing the population, their score. Okay, we'll take a look at this tile here. This tile says the reputation goes up 1 because there's a blue tile adjacent to it. So we're going to push that up. And then because there's a fast food restaurant on the board, we're going to have to go back to the first player and take a look at their board and recall that they have a fancy restaurant. Fancy restaurant says that for every restaurant that gets played after this one, their income goes down by 1. So we're going to reduce the income by 1. Let's go ahead and collect our income and reputation. We're going to get $1. Oh, you know what? I didn't pay for that. Let's go ahead and pay for that tile right now. Costs $7. And we get $1 back. So $1 back. And let's go take care of our reputation track. Red has a reputation of 2, so we're going to increase the score by another 2. So red has got it's really jumped off to a quick start, up to 7 already. Let's wrap up red's turn by fixing the real estate market or filling in any holes. We're going to slide down a tile, slide down all these tiles, and grab another one here. We've got another farm. Interesting. Okay. We are now ready to tackle the last player. Okay, so the last player drew for their own personal goal, having the fewest industrial tiles. Now this is kind of in contradiction to the common goal, which have the most. And this player is kind of counting on the rest of the players grabbing up yellow tiles as much as possible. Remember, everybody starts with at least 1. So by choosing this tile here, they're going to avoid yellow tiles as much as possible, and hopefully everybody gets at least 2. Now, one of our players, one of the competitors, yellow player, has already picked a yellow tile, so they're already out in the lead in that regard. what they're hoping for is the other two players at least grab one more yellow tile. And in that regard, this player will have the fewest with only having one. As a result, they're sitting on 15 points. So I'm not sure what tile we're going to choose for this guy, but we're not going to choose a yellow one. Okay, and we can see that there are in fact 2 yellow tiles in the real estate market, but they're awfully expensive right now, so there's really no reason to pick them. This waterfront realty definitely looks appealing. So let me turn this over and just remind you guys what water does. So when you choose a water tile, remember you're going to flip over one of these tiles, pay the real estate cost only. The actual cost of the water tile itself is 0, but again, you just pay whatever the real estate value is. And then you're going to get $2 for every adjacent yellow, gray, green, or blue tile. Well, what the waterfront realty does, it gives you an extra $2. So instead of getting $2 for each adjacent tile, you're going to get $4. I think we're going to hold off on that one. It is awfully expensive. Let's try to work on getting our income up. It's always a good idea to get income up. I think because there are no more restaurants on the board, I think we're going to go with this one here, the fancy restaurant. Going to go ahead and pay our $9. Remember it this time. And let's go back to our borough. Okay, and we're going to place our fancy restaurant. Let's go ahead and park it here. First thing that happens is we remember from before, we're going to get $3. And then we're going to lose 1 for every restaurant that's placed after this one. Well, we don't have to worry about that right now. And we're going to get a +1 reputation because of this, our community park. Now we're going to ask the rest of the players, hey, do you guys got to do any adjustments? And of course the answer is yes. There's 2 other players that are going to be doing adjustments. Let's go in order. We're going to start with the first player. Remember, our first player has a fancy restaurant. Every restaurant that gets played after this one, reduced income by 1, while their income is down to 1. That's kind of unfortunate. Okay, the other player that needs to adjust is the yellow player. They're going to get a boost in income for every restaurant played in the game. Well, there's another restaurant, so they get a +1. Okay, we're back at the real estate market. Let's go ahead and get that ready for the next player. And what's the new tile? The new tile is a mint. Awfully expensive, but it definitely helps for income. Okay. Remember, one of the common goals here is have the most or the largest contiguous civic region of the board, meaning gray tiles adjacent to one another. That's something that is awfully interesting now with this tile in play as well. So let's go ahead and adjust purple's score. They're going to pick up $3 from the bank. Put it up to 9, and then they're going to get 2 reputation or 2 score added, 2 population added to their score. And here we go. Here's purple's score. It starts with 2. They're going to add 2. They're here.
Okay guys, so we've just completed the first video for Suburbia, where we do a rules teach followed by a playthrough for turn 1. We're going to go ahead and complete the playthrough, but we're going to put that in the second video. It does run a little bit longer to be able to complete an entire game with the talking through all the actions and talking through everything that's going on in the game itself. So in this video, like I said, we completed the teach and the playthrough. Now the teach itself only took about 20 to 25 minutes. That's because the game is so easy to teach. It's very straightforward, very easy to grasp the concepts here. What makes the game interesting is the depth. It's the decision making, choosing the tiles and seeing how they interact with the tiles that you have in your borough already and the other tiles that may be in the game. Likewise, the endgame goals, both the personal and the common ones or the shared ones, also provide a great deal of the flavor, or it creates the decision space that the players are going to be in. I should mention that the game itself has great replayability. The tiles that we work with, the tiles for building the city and the endgame goals, we only used a fraction of them, a small fraction of them. There's many more tiles that we could actually end up seeing in future games when we randomize the selection of those particular tiles. I just mentioned again that Suburbia is a wonderful game. It's quite good at entertaining people who are quite experienced with board games and also novice players alike. And as I mentioned earlier, it's great for introducing people to board gaming and getting kids involved with board gaming as well. This is a great game for ages 8 and up. This is definitely an easy recommend. If anybody asked me if this is a good game, I would definitely state that. The teach itself and the game that we play, the version is the base game. However, it's been tweaked a little bit. We've got a few of the Suburbia Inc. tiles mixed in with the regular base tiles, and likewise with the goals as well. We don't play with the additional pieces that come with the Suburbia Inc. game, where they have borders and walls within the city. It's not a true wall, but it's more like a border piece. That kind of it's an option that players can put into place to score more points, but it does limit growth in certain directions. The next video, as I mentioned, is a follow-up where we complete the playthrough, and we'll go all the way to the end of the game where we do final scoring as well. So please check that one out, and that's available. That will be available shortly. Last thing we want to say is thank you for watching the video. Really appreciate you guys for making it to the end. And for those of you who have made it this far, let's go ahead and do the punch board challenge. Like before, we're going to show you punch boards from a game. And then just please write in the comments below the identity of the game that the punch board comes from. Let's go ahead and take a look at that first punch board. And again, just write in the name of the game that this punch board came from. Okay, here's our second one. And here's the third one. So there's 3 different games, punch boards from each one. Just write in the comments below which games you think these came from, and we'll have a conversation in the comments below.